Hi, I'm Jamie Lewis and welcome back to thebassist.net. Now, back in March of this year while I was on tour with Shim, I posted a rig rundown video just kind of showing you all the different gear that I was using for that particular tour. And in the comments section, a lot of you were asking about how I was automating my pedals to turn on and off without having to stomp on them myself. So today, that's exactly what I'm going to show you how to do. So don't go anywhere because I guarantee you're going to want to see this. So like I said in that rig rundown video, I never have to stomp on any of my pedals. They just turn on and off when they're supposed to. Now, I still keep the board at my feet just in case something were to ever go wrong, which after 30-something shows, nothing ever did. Once the song starts, all the pedals just do what they're supposed to because I've automated them or I've pre-programmed them. So for instance, during the verse, I've got an overdrive pedal, but then when it goes to the chorus, the overdrive turns off, the bass goes clean, but then I kick on a compressor pedal to just kind of fill it out a little bit. And then when it goes to the bridge, the whole entire bass goes mute, meaning if I touch the strings, nothing happens at all. Because I'm going over to the keyboard, I got to play piano and strings a lot on the set, and I don't want to accidentally hit the bass and make some noise, so I can just turn the whole thing off. And the coolest thing about this is it allows me to be anywhere on stage. I could be over by the drum riser about to jump off or hanging out with Pow and Shim, the other guitar players, or I could be over by my station, but I never have to go over to the pedal board and stomp on a button. And especially if you're a touring band and you're doing like the same set night after night, it's easy. You just program the set once and then you're good. And the key to making this whole thing possible with analog pedals is this thing that's popping up right here. It's called a Voodoo Lab Hex, which is a true bypass loop switcher. Now, if you don't know what that is, give me just a second and I'll explain it. And if you do know, then just skip ahead a couple of minutes and catch up with us. All you have to do is just plug each of your pedals into this box, and then you can choose which ones you want to have in your signal chain at any given moment. And if you're wondering why you'd want to do that, well, there's tons of reasons, but the simplest answer is just to minimize your signal chain. For instance, if you have 6 pedals on your pedal board, well, then you could be degrading your signal by that much extra cabling. And if those stomp boxes aren't true bypass, then they could be sucking out some of your tone, even if they're not engaged. So with loop switchers like the Hex, all you have to do is just plug in your pedals into each of the loops, which, this one has 6. So say you want the first one to be your octaver, and then your overdrive for number 2, and then your compressor, or whatever. All you have to do is connect the input of your pedal to the send jack on the looper, and then connect the output of your pedal to the return jack. And then you're all set. Now you just plug in your bass here, and then it comes out of here, which you can connect to your amp, your DI, or whatever you're using, and that's it. Okay, so now you're all caught up on everything you need to know about loop switchers. Again, people have been doing this for years. However, the Voodoo Lab Hex is a bit different, because I don't know if you've noticed, but if you look at the top of the box, there's nothing for you to stomp on, meaning that there's nothing that I hit with my foot that engages those pedals or puts them in my signal chain. Well, that's because the Hex is designed to control each of those audio loops with MIDI messages rather than like a physical contact button that you hit. And so you can use this technology in tons of different ways in your setup. I won't go over all of them, but I will show you how I use it in my rig. It's actually really easy to do. So first, let me just show it to you in action, and then I'll break it down. I'll show you in Ableton Live and explain everything that I'm doing, and I guarantee you'll be able to do it too. So this is some concert footage from our tour back in March of 2019. I don't recall the exact venue, but this is a live multi-tracked recording of our set. So I promise you, I'm not controlling any of these effects in post. In fact, I'm just pressing play on a mix down that I did. I've made the bass a little bit hotter so you'll notice some of these things I'm talking about. But all of these pedal changes were done on the fly, live at this concert, and it was all being controlled by the Voodoo Lab Hex. So let's just have a quick listen to the first chorus. Now, I'm sure you've noticed that you're hearing a pretty nice overdrive on this bass. And by the way, this song is called Secrets. It's off Shim's new album called Shim, which you can get on iTunes or Spotify, or wherever you happen to stream music these days. But after this chorus, you're going to hear a pretty big change in the sound. Check this out. I'm sure you noticed that an octaver kicked in the next verse. And this is kind of my secret weapon with Shim's set. I use an octaver rather than tuning down the bass or using a synth bass to get those really, really deep tones. And on it goes for the rest of that song, and actually almost each song in our 85-minute set. So that's just a short example of what it looks like. And as you notice, I never once stomped on a pedal. The distortion and the octaver just turned on and off exactly when they were supposed to. So now let me show you how you can do this on the software side of things, how to connect it all and pre-program it. And let me just say this right here, okay? If I lose you on any of this stuff for any reason, maybe you're new to digital recording or you're just not that good with computers, I highly recommend that you check out a series that I'm currently working on here called The Bassist's Guide to Recording. It's a multi-episode series that's going to cover everything from I just got into recording, how do I set everything up, how do we plug this stuff in, all the way down to eventually tracking a full band and even some advanced mixing techniques as well. So make sure you check that out in a week or so or whenever it goes live. Or hey, if you're watching this in the future, then go check it out now because it's already happened. And remember, I'm also going to be adding to that series probably for years to come because you can say a lot about recording and mixing and all that stuff. So the first thing you'll need to do is connect your Voodoo Lab Hex to your computer. I'm using a laptop right here, but you could use a desktop or whatever you've got. And I wish that the Voodoo Lab Hex had a USB port on it. It does not. I mean, hopefully that's some functionality that they can add into the future, but it does have a MIDI in and a MIDI out. So here's the way that I do it. I just went on Amazon. I bought a $30 USB to MIDI converter. And basically that allows me to plug in the MIDI ports on the Hex and then connect that to the USB port on my computer. And then that way the two devices are talking to each other. And then once you have the Hex connected to your computer, all you need to do is open up your DAW of choice. Now, when it comes to performing live, I prefer to use Ableton. I like to use Studio One when I'm recording in the studio, but for live or for launching backing tracks or automating pedals or playing VST keyboard instruments, I prefer using Ableton Live. But you can do this with any DAW, okay? So check this out. I'll show you on my computer over here. Now in Ableton or whatever DAW you're using, all you have to do is start out by making sure that the Hex is in your available MIDI devices, which you can see that it is if I go to my preferences menu over here. Now this MIO or MIO, I don't even know what it's called. This is the USB converter that I mentioned before. So it's showing up, we're all good to go. Now all I need to do is just create a new MIDI track, which you can see I've already done along with a few other ones because I've got some other pedals as you can see. And we'll call this one Overdrive since I'm going to use it to turn on my overdrive pedal. And after that, I have to make sure to set the output of this new MIDI track to the USB MIDI interface that we have connected, which is that MIO or MIO. So we want to make sure that the MIDI signals we're sending are actually going to the Hex and not some other MIDI controller that I may have connected like a keyboard or a drum pad or something else. So next, I'll just create a dummy clip inside of this MIDI channel, which isn't going to make any sound at all. It's not triggering any VST instruments or keyboard sounds or anything like that. It's just a dummy clip, sending a MIDI signal that the Hex is then going to interpret as a command to either turn the pedal on or off. Now in the Voodoo Lab manual, it'll tell you which MIDI CCs will end up controlling which loops. And that all depends on which pedals you have plugged into them. So for this example, I'm going to control my octaver, which is on loop number 1. So I have to use MIDI CC number 81. And again, I got that from the product manual. So all I have to do is expand the envelopes tab right over here, click on this Show All Envelopes button, and then choose MIDI controller, CTRL, if it's not pulled up automatically. And then just choose number 81, since that's the one that I need to control in this case. Now I just need to draw in some automation, which you can see I've already done because this is the exact session that we used that night. So here's how it works. If the line is at 0, then the loop is off. And if I turn it all the way up to 127, well, then it's on. And as you can see over here on my hex pedal, the light turns red when it's engaged, and then it turns off when the loop is bypassed, which, by the way, is being controlled not by my feet, but by my laptop just by going like this. Watch. And really, that's it. If you're playing to backing tracks, then this is really, really simple. All you have to do is just go through your timeline, make a MIDI clip that starts at the beginning and ends at the end, which again, as you can see, I've already done, and then just plot out where you want these pedals or these loops to turn on or to turn off, and you're pretty much good to go. Just repeat this process for as many pedals as you want to automate. So that's how it works, the method behind the madness. And as you can see, it's actually really easy to do so long as you know just a little bit about DAWs and digital recording. So if that was a bit too much for you, then make sure you go check out The Bassist's Guide to Recording, and I promise I'll get you all caught up. Now, you may have some questions right off the bat, and I'm going to answer them for you, okay? Number one, you're probably thinking, well, do I have to be playing to backing tracks in order to do this? And the short answer is yes. Because if you're not snapped to a grid or some sort of timeline, then the pedals have no idea when to turn on and off. In other words, when's the verse and when's the chorus and when's the intro and the bridge and all this stuff, like, there's no way unless you're playing along to a machine that's playing along with you. You might be wondering if it's possible to connect multiple units, and the answer is yes. Because maybe you've got more than 6 pedals you want to automate. Cool, then buy 2 hexes, and you might be able to daisy chain them into the same USB interface. I'm not sure, I would have to try that. But I know absolutely you can have as many MIDI USB interfaces as you want. So that MIO or MIO that I have, I could buy 2 or 3 of them, send one to my pedal board, one to the lead guitar, one to the rhythm guitar, one to the keyboard player, and then when I press spacebar and launch the track, everyone's patches are going to change. Everyone's pedals will turn on and off. And so then that way I could program the entire show. And you also might be wondering what to do for songs that don't have any backing tracks, which actually there's 4 or 5 in our set. The majority of the song has click and backing track and all that stuff, but for any of Shim's old stuff, it's just old school rock band, bass, drums, guitar, that's it. I handle this by mounting the hex on the top of my pedal board. They make it so that you can put it underneath like their power supplies and anything like that, and just do all the wiring underneath the board. I like to put it on top, so if there's a song that doesn't use any click or any tracks, well, let's just say I need to use a distortion and a compressor. Well, I go to the loops on the hex and I turn those 2 on, and then I turn the pedals off with my feet. And so now it's just a regular old pedal board. Those 2 pedals are in my chain even though they're bypassed at the moment. So I stomp on one at the verse and I stomp on the other one when I need it. And so it's just like an old school pedal board. So it can still function that way if you want it to. It kind of makes me feel like a caveman doing it the old-fashioned way. So that's it. Go ahead and get yourself a Voodoo Lab hex, grab your laptop and some recording software, a USB to MIDI interface, and you're all good to go. Start programming away. If you have any trouble with this stuff or you run into anything, just leave me a message in the comment section below and I'll help you out as best I can. Thanks again for watching, and a special thank you to Voodoo Lab for making this video possible. If you like what I do, please give this video a thumbs up and subscribe to the channel by clicking on this button up here. If you really like what I do, then come hang out with me at thebassist.net by clicking on this button right down here. Also check out The Bassist Podcast. New episodes go live each and every week. And until next time, I'll see you again here at thebassist.net.